Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Heritage and Events Committee. We plunge straight in because we're making a late start. So can I draw your attention to item 391, declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest. Are there any, please? And if not, and you think of something to go along, you can say it for that particular item. 392, apologies for absence, please.
These have been received from councillors MacDonald, Stewart and Wood.
Thank you very much. I still think that's a good turnout, so thanks to everybody who's here. And on to 393 to confirm the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 16th of August. Are there any comments or wishes to alter what's on print, either ahead of you, either above me or on your paper? If not, can I ask for your acceptance that these minutes should be confirmed as a true record?
I agree.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So that will happen. 394. I can't read it, unfortunately. I've got an old copy and I wrote that particular item in by hand. So review of the Heritage and Events terms of reference. And you have those, thank you. You have those available to you as well. Can I ask whether there are any immediate comments, concerns, wishes to expand or contract what's there already? You may well agree with it, in which case we'll simply agree and move on. I'm hearing nothing. Can I therefore take it, colleagues, that you would like to ask full council to confirm these words?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. This is wonderful progress. Thank you for your support so far. Can it continue any longer? 395, mayoral and civic events, to receive the update of civic event 23-24.
Can we have a proposer and seconder for the? Can we have a proposer and seconder?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we need a proposer and seconder for item 394. My apologies. Can we have a proposer, please? Thank you very much. And a seconder, yes, we've got both. And you're already agreed, so you're not going to change your minds, are you? No, thank you very much. 395, mayoral and civic events. So to receive the update for civic events during the course of the year, and to agree no, we don't have to agree, just to note the upcoming events. Any comments from you, please, David?
So I think the Civic Secretary has notified all the councillors that there's been a slight change to the arrival of councillors on the day of the Remembrance Parade. You'll all be arriving in the Carnegie as opposed to the Guildhall. So you will robe up in the Guildhall, you'll meet and greet, tea and coffee, etc., etc. So it won't be in the Guildhall as we've done in past occasions. You'll then go over the bridge, onto the steps of the Guildhall, and then take your places as usual. The reception after the parade will be conducted in the Carnegie, which I think we've done for the last couple of years. And the mayor tells me hopefully there'll be at least 100 people present for that reception. So if any of you are still to confirm that you will bring in guests, etc., I please ask you to contact the Civic Secretary, but the reception will be in the Carnegie. And that's really all I need to update you on that one.
Thank you.
Secretary.
Okay, I'm happy to note that.
Yep.
Thank you very much again. So on to 396, town events. Sorry, I'm misreading mine. I think I'm behind myself. So we've got 397, pop-up charity stores in the marketplace.
No, we have which one? So town events, 39623 town events. So part of our terms of reference is that this committee needs to just approve the town event schedule for the next year, which is 2024-25. I think Karen circulated a broad proposal of those events scheduled for next year. It is a broad proposal. It's just to try and identify key dates, as we always do through the town event schedule. I'll try to give some specifics in terms of what could happen underneath those broad headings to give you a flavour, but it's a work in progress in terms of the detail. As our budget dictates, we provide a sum of money to underpin and fund these town events, and these are the ones that we are proposing for councillors to review.
Any comments, thoughts, please?
I have a question, if I could, please. Is this where I can ask for something to be added to the 10 events list?
Yeah.
Right, well,
Can we do that at a later date as well?
What?
So, so if you look at item 2 on the schedule, which is the summer events, last year we dubbed that marketplace events. So if there's any additional events that you would like to propose at a future date, absolutely, we can probably fit those in and around those broad headings. If it's something specific that you want to add to, which is a bigger event, then yeah, I would suggest you do that now.
Okay, well, I've been banging on for a while now about trying to get us to commemorate Holocaust Day and due to the fact I'm there next year, I would like us to do that at a specific time.
So, so can I say that would probably fall within the civic events calendar, but we can still suggest that as part of events.
I'm not more than the civic, so I don't have
So I'm happy
Okay,
to suggest that to the civic secretary that we adopt that as well.
thanks for that.
One of the events that I always liked, but we haven't done for a few years, was the, on Armistice, we always done on the Friday evening, there was always a concert, a remembrance concert. Can we look at the possibility of reintroducing that?
So one thing about that, Vic, it was a Royal British Legion event. So we gave, as a council, we gave the venue for free for them to facilitate that event. I must admit the reason it's probably not happened over the last couple of years is because I think the Royal British Legion group has diminished in numbers, and I think it's quite an onerous task to develop that event. There has been talk in the past that we should probably take it on, but invite the Royal British Legion to be part of it. So again, if you wish to look at including that in the civic calendar, then we certainly can.
When I spoke with the British Legion, they said it's a council event.
No, we gave the venue free, but what we did was we supported it by paying for the band. We supported it by running off the programmes of the event, but literally they came in and delivered it, if you like. They took over registration so we can certainly collaborate with them, because I think they need to be part of it, because it is part of the Remembrance Weekend. We can certainly try and resurrect that.
Have you spoken to them, Vic, to Robert Legion?
Not since last Armistice, but I will be going in there this week, because I'll pay for
It would be helpful just to get a flavour of
I'll
They're interested.
set up a meeting with whoever's doing it, because it is something I'm keen to get back and.
So, are they interested? If they're interested, what contribution would they see themselves making? What would they want from the town council? Maybe there's probably the obvious questions to ask.
Is the committee happy with me going and asking these questions on behalf of?
Informally, that's often the way things are done.
As a committee, you just understand that in the past we have financially subsidised that event, so it's probably to the tune of about £400 in terms of the fee of the band. We'll come up to the budgets later on in the presentation, and I feel there is adequate money to do that if that's what the committee wishes to do. So,
Yes, please.
Just, like the continental markets and that, and seeing how busy everything was this year. And not necessarily adding to any events on there, but I thought it'd be an opportunity. And I don't know if we're able to do it, but to encourage local businesses, or, you know, if it's to do with sort of the town's sports clubs or the music clubs or whatever it is, to set up stalls, etc. at the same time, because while you've got that influx of people throughout the town centre, you've got people, you know, footfall's there, and we discussed it previously in terms of actually so in terms of like trying to encourage that sort of thing at any of the events listed. Can we do that later on, or is that just sort of like, is it doable? How does that work?
There is an agenda item that Stuart's going to raise within the evening, which probably falls in the same remit. I would say, Adam, that the continental market was a real success. The thing is, they won't come here unless they can trade over, say, 4 days. I think 4 days is the minimum. As you can see on the schedule, we've already agreed, hopefully. They're coming back at Christmas with a Christmas-specific market. They're going to come 3 times again next year, so Whitsun, summer, and then the Christmas. If you remember, on both of Whitsun and the summer, the Seaside Special, there was a sort of within the marketplace, for instance, there was a sort of a lull in events and proceedings. So what we could do is designate one of those days, maybe the Sunday, where we could have a volunteer day. So we've got the continental market up the high street. The marketplace is designated for volunteer groups, local sports groups and things like that. So again, that's something I can take forward to Katie and get that scheduled in.
That would be helpful. I think we're all struggling with the idea that there are town events and civic events, and you know, we separate them out in a weird kind of way. It's all a bit confusing, so we're allowed to get confused occasionally. I think that's very helpful. We'll come back to the item very soon. I don't know if anyone's got any more comments. I would just add that the obvious gap in terms of timing is that there's nothing happening in January, February, March, April, and really right till the end of May. It's kind of a gap. Whether we say we do less in the winter and that's to be expected, or whether we say that there's more scope for pop-up events of the kind that you're going to talk about. I'm stealing your thunder, apologies. But the fact is, we go for over a third of the year with nothing happening, and it's a bit imbalanced, I would have thought. So maybe we've got more indoor activities as a possibility. We need to just try and find activities throughout the year.
So could I just also add, so part of the team, Alona, who's one of the members of the team, our brief, this is the town events, these are the big events. What I would say is I would like to see activity on the marketplace from March through to December, December being the Christmas lights weekend, being our sort of finale, if you like. But even though the big events don't kick in until Whitsun, and that is literally because it's never a guarantee with weather in this country, but you've got better chance. But from March, we should be doing a lot more activity on the marketplace from March through to the end of May. And that comes within Alona's brief rather than town events, but absolutely agree with you there.
I think we should do something around Easter time, which includes like the Easter sort of Easter egg hunt, etc. around the town, to include the sort of young children, young generation.
And also what happens at Easter is Child Royal Museum opens for the season, and they have the big steam engines out. So we could actually have the mini steam engines that all sit on ones that go all the way up the high street and into the market square, and have some more activity on the market square.
That might be an option.
Yeah.
Thank you. David, you've got the schedule of events here, and I know we're going to talk about budget later.
Yeah.
But do you have a sort of an idea of a breakdown of how the 12 grand events budget for the year will be allocated to that list?
So one of the things that Alan, the Deputy Clerk, fed back from, I think it's Finance and Personnel, when you were looking at budgets as a whole. So as you know, we have a current 12 grand, £12,000 for the whole delivery of all of these town events. And what Alan has asked me to do is do a sub event. So town events, £12,000, Whitsun Summer, Creative Carnival. What is the allocated budget for each of those? So you won't see it in the draft budget, but going forward, Finance and Personnel will certainly have that in the future. It's going to be subdivided down with the allocated budgets, culminating in the total 12,000.
Okay. Part of the reason I asked that is because I sit on the Brooklyn Area Museums Committee. I go as a county rep and Annie goes as a Breckland rep. And they were speaking at the last meeting about the Punjab Festival, which has been delivered for a number of years now, and it's actually really successful. And I think people in fact would expect that to happen now. It's, you know, it's been going on for a number of years. But each time that's happened is the result of specific grant funding and, you know, luck, frankly. They've been successful with funding. And there's no guarantee it will happen next year because there's no guaranteed money. And I do think Thetford Town Council needs to be considering whether we are happy to chuck in some money from our events budget and make it a real partnership that we help to facilitate that. And then similarly, I know that Breckland are funding Stage and Screen, and I know you've met with Breckland and you might want to comment on that. But, you know, the other towns in Breckland are getting tetchy, I suppose would be the right word, that Breckland are putting quite a lot of money into Thetford in terms of the cinema and the theatre at the Priory. And I don't think Breckland will be looking to fund that entirely in the future. And I think we as a town council should offer to contribute some money to help subsidise that, which would give Breckland justification for continuing in Thetford, and we can turn around and say, well, we're part funding Stage and Screen.
I'm sure that both the things you mentioned have our general support. We welcome them. We'd like to see them continued. It may affect the discussion about our finance later. The funding has to be allocated somewhere in the budget for next year. So maybe, colleagues, when we're talking about funding, we need to bear in mind Terry's two suggestions.
Also, what I'd like to try and see is if we could coincide with like the proms. You know, maybe use the King's Gardens and have Thetford Music Project, like Thetford Academy having a musical sort of concert or sort of free concert for residents. It'll be a sort of early, sort of autumn, sort of September time.
So we just hosted the Britain Sinfonia at the Carnegie, and they are part of the Norfolk Music Hub. So they are working with several Thetford schools and schools further afield in different towns. They were absolutely blown away by the Carnegie, and their parting comment as they left was, "We will be back." One of the things that we did sit down with one of their lead officers is, what else can we do to try and support more activity? And we spoke to him about outdoor events and things like that. They work with Thetford Music Project, schools, etc. So again, working with them, they would facilitate it. We would probably just offer up the venues, whether it's the Carnegie, the Marketplace, King's House Gardens, if we're able to get King's House Gardens. So it's certainly something we are looking to do anyway. Whether it would form part of this or an additional activity is open for debate, I think. So just coming back on Terry's comment, we did have a conversation with the Breckland, one of the Breckland officers. What they are hoping to do in collaboration with us is to put in an art council bid for a summer festival. I'm not too sure. It'd be remiss of me to say that they are or aren't going to do Stage and Screen. They've done it for a couple of years. They might want to try and develop it slightly differently, but they certainly want to do more. But it is dependent on funding. One of the things that we are conscious within the team is the £12,000 is almost seed money from the council to put these events on. There's ways that we can generate additional income through these events with stallholder fees, donations, sponsorship and things like that, which we can reinvest as we go in additional events, such as the ones that you've suggested. At this moment in time, we don't have that option with our budget, but if you look at our draft budget for next year, we've put a nominal fee in against sponsorship, and it is just a very small nominal fee. I think we can certainly improve that. But any money that we create in that way, we will reinvest in the town events programme. So there's opportunities to do it. We just need to work harder in trying to attract that additional support, unless you want to put up the town events budget, which I can't see you do. £12,000 goes a long way. It went a long way last year, and we actually made enough money through some of the stallholders' fees that we put an additional steampunk event on in March.
I think it goes an astonishingly long way, but we are now suggesting a more ambitious programme next time. So I'm just feeling that maybe 12,000 might be a bit of a stretch this time. We might see
So
back a
I'm
bit.
just thinking on the lines where some of the events we've had this year have gone round really, really well. And I think the sort of residents might sort of want more rather than just say, oh, it's the same as last year, same as last year. You know, if we add into it, sort of like Mike said, there's going to be a big lull between January to April where we're not.
So I think we
Actually
need to be
doing it.
cleverer in terms of not always us, but we just facilitate other groups to deliver those kind of events with us giving just support to it, offering up the facilities, doing a bit of event support in terms of staffing on the day. But we can't fund, the council can't fund something every weekend from March all the way through. But we have to be cuter, we have to be cleverer, we have to, I know the team are really keen in exploring other funding opportunities. Amber, who you saw earlier, she's had a little bit of experience in terms of raising money via funding bids. Katie has had that kind of experience. So I think we're more confident going, but as long as we get that fund, we want it invested in this and not into the town budget.
I just want to reiterate what Stuart said. I actually agree. I think from January to April, it's a big gap for not having anything on. So I agree that should put something on in this. I don't, it doesn't have to be every weekend for sure, but I don't have the capacity for it. But certainly one or two events to break that previous. There's not such a big gap in between. Particularly, it's a way when the kids are at school, families want something to do. I think we should focus on an event for Easter as an add-on. So there's not such. I mean, still quite a gap from January to April, but this is something that we can collaborate with other groups to put something on.
I think also January, February time, it's really poor weather, but it gives us an opportunity to do some of the, repair and refurbishment jobs around the market square, because, I mean, they do come out at Christmas lights. I've known it to be absolutely freezing cold and people wrap up and come in their thousands. So Thetford does come out for a good event. But to do it regularly in January, February is going to be an ask. Certainly from March, because then sometimes Easter's in late March to early April.
It's the end of March, isn't it?
Is it this year?
Easter.
So we definitely should be saying March through to December. Yeah.
There's still an opportunity for internal events, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one outdoors, certainly.
Can you tell us, I mean, it sounds a bit in parentheses, I like in parentheses, the markings that have appeared on the market square recently, are they permanent? Are they washable?
So it's another part of this master planning, Alex. So there was money allocated within the bid, within the grant, to try and do things. I mean, talking about micro projects, to do things to try and put heritage within the mindset of the local residents. We would have loved to eventually, when they were talking about resurfacing it, they were talking about etched heritage slabs and things like that. That may be a permanent fixture. Then it's pretty permanent. It's not going to be, it's going to stand the test of time for a good few years. But we've had a lot of inquiries to what it is. It's actually a compass, as we put into a presentation a couple of months ago. And we will have another plaque within the shambles area that will tell a little bit more information about the famous sons and daughters of Thetford's past that have had connections with the town. So the compass is the central feature, and then it pinpoint, well, we spoke about it. And I did take your comment back, Carla, and the
about the disposition of the.
Yes, and you said it will be apportioned properly.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's paid for out of that money. And it's a sort of semi-permanent, if you like, because eventually, if we were lucky enough and successful enough to get the big bucks, we would resurface that car park. Sure.
Thank you very much for your suggestions and discussion, colleagues. I think this is perhaps the heart of what this committee should be doing, and I'm pleased that we were able to take it forward. And this next item is a further opportunity in the same direction. So moving on to 397, if I may, pop-up charity stores on the marketplace, and Stuart to talk.
Thank you, Mike. What I'd like to see over the years ago, over the Christmas period, the marketplace is always quite busy where maybe local traders, along with maybe crafts or cottage industries and charity stalls have been on the marketplace. I'm not sort of thinking charity like the cancer research, et cetera, but local, local people in town that do things for local charities. It'd be nice to have little pop-up stalls for them so they could sell, if they make things or, things to sell over the Christmas period. Obviously, I don't think it should be free, but maybe a donation to Thetford Town Council for the use of the market space. Is that something that we can look at?
Is this something that that could happen now, would you say, or does it require a bit of new thinking?
Well, firstly, we've been able to do that for a little while. I mean, from a commercial point of view, I know you talk about charity stores. We had people like Roasties on there for a period of time that came and paid and traded from the market square. What it needs is someone to take this as a focus and try and develop it. And this week we had Stacey join the team as the new market coordinator. She's impressed me in terms of how quick she settled in, and she started to do some of the social media posting already. She spends Tuesday after market day with Hazel, and they schedule various different posts, and she's I think together with Terry they've got another profile going out in the next few days because we're starting to profile our traders. It's something that she can say, she's the market coordinator, but not necessarily focused just on Tuesday and Saturday. She's been recruited for 16 hours, so she will have some additional time within that 16 hours to potentially to take this on. She's already having inquiries from people that realise that she's now the coordinator, so they're contacting her direct to say, I'm interested in this very thing. I'm a hobbyist. I've got my public liability insurance, but I would just like to come along and sell bits and bobs for Christmas. So they either come on the market day, but if they need to, they can certainly come on other days. One of the things that I've really tried hard over recent months and years is at times our churches all have different focuses in terms of what they do on a voluntary basis. Some churches run food banks, some run sort of loneliness clubs, et cetera, et cetera. There was a Cloverfields church actually came and supported one of our events, and they brought their sports ministry team, and they did a lot of kids activities and things like that. So I said to them on the day, why don't we have a church's showcase, if you like, a voluntary showcase on one Sunday? I picked the wrong day because clearly they have other things to do on a Sunday. But it doesn't mean to say that they can't do it, and several of them are trying to work on that. So that could be one of the things that we do in the future. But personally, I don't know what the committee feels, but groups like that put so much time and effort into trying to support residents within the town, I don't think we would really necessarily want to charge them. It may be we do something free of charge on occasions to showcase what they do. The other thing is, if you look at what V&M have recently done, is they've reviewed the market fees, and part of that is that we actually have part of those incentives is that we encourage young traders and other traders to come, and there's an incentive that if they pay for so many weeks, they get additional weeks free. So it's a real encouragement. And again, as I've said, we've had 2 or 3 inquiries, so hopefully we'll get more come along because of that incentive. So I think if you pay for 4 weeks in advance, you actually can trade 8 weeks, and half of that time is free of charge. So that's a real incentive. Voluntary groups, is it something that, as long as they don't trade on a market day, they trade on an additional day, that they could have some time just to showcase what they do? I don't know, it's up to the committee, but yeah. But we can do this anyway. It's just we need someone to, to be dedicated to try and do it. And I think between Stacey and Alona, I think we've got those people in the team that can do that.
Are you happy with that, Stuart?
Yeah, I'd really sort of like to push it forward for this year, but is that too late to?
Well, the only thing I would say is the dates that we've got in the proposal. So the 1st, 2nd and 3rd is a no-no because we will have so much on the market square because that's Christmas light switch on. and the Christmas lights weekend. And we are, we're full with stall holders and traders, et cetera, all across that weekend. I would say that once you get past the 23rd, which 23rd of December through to the end of December, I'll be very surprised if anybody wants to go onto the market square anyway. But in the period in between, certainly we can put it out there and ask if anybody. But again, if you have contacts with lots of voluntary groups, as most councillors do, then also encourage them to get in touch with the team, and we can hopefully facilitate doing that, Stuart. That's absolutely fine.
Would that be okay, Terry? Would that be okay to one of the markets, right, to get?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I must apologise.
Would that be okay to sort of try and get volunteer groups and craft groups onto the market? That'd be maybe do a slightly pop-up craft market.
Yeah. In practice, I don't see why not. It sort of depends what sort of market we've got at that time, really, doesn't it?
So does that cover your issues?
Yeah.
Have you got any specific ideas at the moment? I'm only asking.
Not yet. It's something that sort of obviously we spoke about in the past, and it makes, I think at the moment in time there's a cost of living crisis, and if people can go into a market and buy little gifts for Christmas, it takes more pressure of them going to sort of big shops and spending an absolute fortune.
Yeah. Gotcha. I've also been asked about charity stalls at the Christmas market, and is it possible that we could dedicate one of the Sundays and do a Christmas themed craft market?
I'd have to ask Katie what we've got planned over the weekend, because I know she's got a full programme first, second and third. If there's any day where you could probably squeeze some of those in, it would be the Sunday, the 3rd of December. There's obviously still the continental market that runs from Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday of that weekend. But Sunday, we actually have our Santa experience in the Guildhall on the Sunday. So it's probably a good day to have some additional stalls outside, but I don't know how much space she's got. But certainly, if you've got anyone that wants to inquire, certainly push them our way, and then the team can say yay or no.
It's bringing parents, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So
Possibly we've got to put that in the promotional.
Yeah.
Any more on that one?
Yeah, sorry, it's just to clarify on the point I made earlier, just to follow on from your point, Stuart. So if you've got people that have got local businesses or volunteer groups, you're saying it's only on set days, preferably not a normal market day, that they're able to come up there. Am I getting that right?
You can come on market day, but we are getting more and more inquiries. So if they want to come, then get in quick. But it's not to say that if they're that kind of trader, if that kind of hobbyist stroke trader, it doesn't mean to say they can't come on other days as well. Because it adds to the variety and vibrancy of the space. So that's good.
And going back to the point I made originally, which was about sports clubs, music clubs, arts clubs that might have positions for, especially to get young people involved. I think that was the point that I discussed with Stuart before. You tend to encourage people if you've got more football there, and that tends to be on market days, and that would be or the continental market days or whatever it is. Providing they actually are interested in doing it, and obviously.
So one of the things that we did, we installed some electric points within the shambles where the gates are. You can open the gates, and it creates a nice little raised platform.
Yeah.
And we did have some buskers in there one Saturday, and the traders actually enjoyed it. They said it added to the experience. So again, if you've got up and coming youngsters, we used to have them at the old night market when we did them. That was pretty much all, buskers and things like that. But certainly they can come along at certain times, and again, we can facilitate them. Alona would be the one to speak to on that one. So just tell them to get in touch with the team, but we could put out some promotion to say that we're wanting to do that.
It's all doable.
Yeah.
Happy with that, Adam?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, that's a host of suggestions and improvements. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much indeed. I'm suggesting we move on to 398. For those of you who really only come for finance, this is the financial report. So for 6 months ended the 30th September, to receive and discuss the financial report. It always says lead chair, and I'm not leading very much on this one. I'm anxious to get it through and get you to agree that it makes sense. Are there any comments from your, we got the right, yeah, that the screen above my head is the relevant one. Are there any comments on that, please? I think fairly obvious from the way we work that the figures concerned are small beer compared with the expenditure of some other committees. So in a way, I feel this is, you know, we're talking about 12,000 or so, and it's a very limited amount of money, and there's probably not much to argue the toss about. I think we will have greater clarity when we've got the idea established that Councillor Jeremy's worked so hard on, to get the idea that we include in particular staff costs when we're looking at what the expenditure of each committee is. I do believe that's a really important step forward for clarity in planning and seeing what's worthwhile and seeing what the true cost of things is. But on the whole, what we're providing at the moment is a lot for a little. I'm going on, hoping you'll all want to leap in. Otherwise, I'm happy to say to ask you whether you're happy with this.
You say it's only a small amount, so
we're proposing this. Karen, do we need to vote on this? No, we don't. So are you happy with this, colleagues? Yes. You're delighted. That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. A draft budget 2024-5. This is item 399, and we need to approve it. If indeed we want to approve it, we need to discuss it and then come to a conclusion.
So we did discuss this at the last committee meeting, and there were councillors who were chomping at the bit to approve it on that one, if I remember rightly. But we did say that we were lucky in this in terms of this committee to have another stab at it before we really needed to conclude to align with the financial process. So personally, it's the same as what was presented 2 months ago, because I don't think anything's come up that we need to drastically look at. There is sufficient, there's sufficient monies in all of the allowances. So the mayor's allowance, the civic events, etc., etc. I mean, if you looked back on the previous current one, they're all well within budget. So if there are any surprises, and one of the surprises is that we are reviewing the tea room operation. So I think we still do it in-house, but there will be sessional support. So, but we've got sufficient flex in those areas to absorb a slight increase in that kind of expenditure. We haven't raised those budget lines for probably 3 years, simply because we took it in-house. So that was a real advantage of doing it in-house and having the team and the skills of the staff to be able to do it. But I think we can still do it within budget. The only one that, if you look back at the current one, it looks as if we're pretty much on track. We've only got Christmas lights as our big town events. So we're 7,649 there of a £12,000 budget. So we are going to be there or thereabouts, because we usually allocate around about £3,500 to Christmas lights, because we do get some donations and sponsorship for that. So we won't be over budget on town events this year again. So that's good. But it's whether, with all these other ideas, you want to move that and increase that. If you don't, we can certainly deliver what we've already spoken about within that. I'm confident of doing that.
Does that include, sorry to interrupt, but does that include the suggestions that have been made this evening?
No, but some of them we will be able to absorb, because I think we can do it in a different way.
If the Punjab Festival, for example, we needed a step up, or if the River Festival needed a bit of support.
Well, I think in this particular budget, talking to the officers from Breckland, I think we're okay for next year because
Okay.
that it's gonna happen or fall on the basis of them getting funding. They're not asking us to commit. The conversations were around where are the strengths in our collaboration. Ours is in delivery, theirs is in the administration, the event planning, and all the rest of it. And I think that's where we will complement each other in any future partnership going forward. But again, I think they're at a point where if they're not successful with a bid, it may not happen. Or but that's in the pipeline. In terms of the Punjab Festival, if you really wanted to support that, because as Terry said, we've never done that in the past, they've always based it on funding, then we'll either have to forfeit one of the scheduled events or we'll have to raise that slightly to continue to support that going forward. The other events, say from March through till Whitsun, I think we can manage that within the budget, and we will do the kind of events which will attract small sponsorships and stallholder support, things like that, which will self-fund it. So
The Punjabi was the Breckland.
the Punjab one is the Essex Diversity.
Can I just check with the Chair of Finance and Personnel? That's you, Terry. When do we need to be clear that this committee is saying it's asking for a specific sum of money?
You are meeting in December, aren't you?
Actually, it's January, isn't it? So
No,
It's every other month. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think of.
20th of December we meet.
is it 20th December? That's been changed. So much the better. But that's still pretty late, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what, because it's every other month now. It's quite a long.
It is every other month. In theory, it should be December.
I mean, we're not adopting the budget until January, so, worst case scenario, 20th December is doable. So that would feed into the January budget.
We might be clearer then as to whether we need to give support to things we've not supported before, but there are, both of which you mentioned. But it looks as if we're confident we can cover all the other proposals being made in the current on the figures you've got above you.
So the discussions 2 months ago was that there's a slight raise in the budget in terms of there's a bit of a contingency that I put in against the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
I think Terry asked on that occasion, where are we at with the contract agreement? Have they got another year to go? I've checked with Nick and we have got another year to go. So we are locked in. So that is just, that's just a contingency, but it's not going to be far off what it is again this year. I also suggested last committee that we had that income line, which was a sort of conservative estimate of £2,000 for fees, donations and sponsorship, whether it could sit within our budget rather than going into the larger black hole. But that would have compensated that slight increase against Christmas lights. If we don't need it against Christmas lights, I am confident we can probably triple that. I really am, because there's a lot of interest around sponsorship and fees and donations and things like that. So if you don't want to raise the budget, we just have to work harder in trying to generate that to compensate any collaboration with the Punjab Festival. But to be honest, there's more than that that's gone into the town council budget in terms of fees and donations and sponsorship this year, but we just don't see it in our budget.
Come on.
2 points. I realize that, you said there's a margin there, especially with the different incomes, 2,000 as a shy estimation of perhaps what we can raise to put towards this. But then again, you said if it doesn't show up, we can't really add it on and balance it out. It needs to be in this budget for this committee. Otherwise, we can't really see how that's contributing towards the overall budget. The other thing is the down events stay at 12K consecutively for 2 years. Whilst you said there's a margin there that we usually manage to do what we need to do within the budget, there's no overhead there or space for cost of things going up, cost of items and increased inflation there that we need to cover from 1 year to the other. Things can be more costly. By the time we pay all the events, we had a little bit in all of them. That's all funded up to the budgets. If you remain the same 12K without the overhead, I'm assuming then we join for that little difference, that surplus that we usually have. But there's going to leave us dead on the limit of the budget. There's no margin there. Then we would definitely have to rely on the fees and donations. You budgeted 2,000, but we're not sure how much that's going to leave us. So without a fixed value, you can't count on something that is a supposition. That's what I'm saying.
The only
If
thing,
we go deadline on 12K, particularly if like Terry said quite well, if we support, events like the Punjabi Festival and everything, that will take us over the 12K, especially as the costs go up from year to year. And I think we will be overstretched. We can only, I know you've been optimistic with the amount of, the fees and donations coming in. You said that 2,000 is a small fee. How much would you see it coming in the year, for example? What's your idea?
in terms of the income line,
Yeah, the income coming in.
as I said, I think you can triple that because we're over that this year. We're over that this year. I understand
Well, which is good.
I understand what you're saying about, but that is the trouble with council budgets. It is a risk. We forecast it at least 4 months before it comes into effect. So we know that sometimes when we approve a budget in January, by the time April comes around, actually,
Could we then count, because you did put extra on the Christmas lights?
Yeah.
As a contingency value, when you say the cost for the contract this year will be approximately the same. So, that contingency will still be there. Can we then translate that into top up to 12K should we need it for 24, 25? I'm just asking how you balance the budget out. Just asking, Can we then use that events for extra events? That's my question.
It's always a contentious thing with the budget that if you start trying to move it from one line to another, sometimes you do have it within the power of the committee to do that. I'm not sure whether you can move it from something like Christmas lights into events.
I know the Christmas lights are the big deal in the year with the bigger budget. Not taking away from that at all, but they're all coming within this committee under the same budget. They're all events. So we have to play with the funds we have throughout the year. That's why I'm asking, can we then use contingency of one, top up the other one if necessary? That's my question.
Yeah, I think you'll be under on something like civic events. So you may well be able to flex it between civic and town events because there's more of a similarity between the two income lines. The only thing is there is a bit of flex within that budget because there's very few civic events that we have. The only thing is next year we do have a national event and that's the 80 years of D-Day, and that's where that contingency within that line comes.
That's my point exactly. If we add on the support to Punjab and then a national event and then something else, so we still stick to 12K, those are going to be very small 12K for the year coming. That's what I'm saying. It might not be enough.
It's 12K plus 200-300 for civic events. So the national event is additional to the 12.
Let's just hope that things are cheaper in 24, 25. Otherwise, we will be by that zone on the value. Thanks.
I just wanted to make a point, David. In the draft budget that went to finance yesterday, there was a line for civic income, which we queried was going to be sponsorship for the Christmas dinner, specifically. There's not a line in the draft budget for town events income.
I never saw that that was presented, to be honest, but we did have, if you look, civic income on our current budget, and as you can see, there's nothing in it. So I've taken that out because it's almost an irrelevance. We never show anything in there. There isn't anything. So you're talking about the Christmas,
the meal.
Yeah. So basically, where that usually comes out of now is the mayoral events, which is £4,800, and we've paid it out of that the last couple of years. So
My point is that the budget gap is actually smaller because in the draft budget we haven't accounted for the extra £2,000 of income.
No.
So it's good news.
The reason, so this is a consideration I'm suggesting to the committee, whether finance and personnel, because the recommendation for a draft budget goes to finance and personnel, whether they will agree to pull it out of the black hole and put it into this one, is up to finance and personnel before it goes to full council approval. I'm saying that if we've generated sponsorship specifically for town events, etc., I think we should show it in there.
Agreed.
I agree. Comes clearer. They're all budget.
But as I've said, this budget is not approved by this committee. It's adopted as a draft proposal to recommend to finance and personnel. That's the decision we've.
Can I suggest that we're ready to do that now? And can I check with you again, Karen? Do you want to vote? You do. I thought you might. Can I have a proposer for this finance thing? We've got one, thanks to it. And the seconder, please. How lovely. Thank you, Vic. Those in favour, please raise one hand. I think I might have to do a count. Can I ask you to raise your hand again if you're in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? Those abstaining?
I'm not on this committee, I don't get that.
Well, I'm
Just busy.
I've actually only seen 5 hands, so I'm going to assume that's carried unless anyone feels they want to have a second bite at it.
I think you're lucky. There's 4 of us. I think that are members of the committee. That might be affected in your mouth.
This is
Just noticing.
we're very generous in allowing non-members to speak willy-nilly. Is that the right word? But yeah, you're right. We shouldn't be voting. Right, so that is carried. Thank you very much for your suggestions, colleagues. And we move on now to item 400, the Honoured Citizens Award 2023. The note you've got says, or the agenda says, to discuss any nominations submitted. I think we have 2 ways of doing this. I'll suggest to you. One is that we do discuss, in which case it'll have to go below the line. We're talking about individuals. The alternative, which I think we'd actually suggested previously, had we not, that we would have a small subcommittee or subgroup that would decide. Perhaps we could start, David, by asking you whether you've had several nominations.
Well, we have had some nominations. However, so basically the agenda item does say that we need, so it's an update, and the update is because at the last meeting, the committee decided that the Honoured Citizen Awards would be, we would have to go to the organiser of the Taras and ask whether they would facilitate the award.
Correct.
We did have that meeting, Mike and I, and the organiser did say that he was willing to incorporate our award. He would forfeit his community service award so we could take its place within the event, which was scheduled for November the 18th. Unfortunately, that event has been postponed for personal circumstances. It's now scheduled to be delivered on Saturday, 3rd of February 2024, which is still within our mayoral year, so it's within this year award. So what I'm saying is it buys us a little bit more time, and also he has had several nominations within his community service award, which the criteria aligns very much with ours. So should we, or are you happy to amalgamate those nominations as well as ours? And then we can review the nominations in December. And then we can determine who the recipient will be in February. It just buys us a little bit more time, but we have had some nominations. Primarily, they have come from councillors, but that's within the remit and criteria of the award, so that's fine. That's really good.
Would you be willing also to agree, colleagues, that those members of this committee who have already made suggestions, have nominated, in fact, should not take part in the deciding process? Is that fair? Any objections to that suggestion?
I am, is that leave?
No. So knowing who nominated them, that does leave us a good proportion of the committee that would still make that decision. So some of the councillors that have made those nominations are not part of the voting committee, so that's fine. There are a couple who are, so they would have to stand down when it comes to voting for the recipient, but there's sufficient of you that would be able to make the decision.
Are you in agreement that we did say before we would do this through a subcommittee, a subgroup rather than can't say the full committee because it's only those who have not made nominations. Perhaps it's the same group of people. I can't remember. Can I ask colleagues which of you have, I know Terry has, but are there others amongst you who've made nominations?
Not there here tonight.
Not on this
But
group.
they are on this group.
Am I right about you, Terry? I think.
Yeah.
So in fact, you're the only one disqualified among those who are members of the committee.
Or member of the committee.
No.
Well, there you are.
No.
Stop that.
Make a difference then.
You're such an ever-present, I kind of.
But there are a couple who are not. There are a couple who are not here tonight that are on the
Okay.
committee that have made nominations.
That's it.
But
Okay. Yes.
Question, is it definitely that we have to integrate, is this a definite decision, we have to integrate our citizens award with the tariffs? And should the tariff not go ahead, any other issue arise that they have to extend it again, why that does leave us with our own awards?
well, we will certainly know by December who our nomination recipient is. So if we were to include those that have been nominated through the TARAs, that complicates the issue, because if we go with one of those recipients, but it doesn't go ahead, then we've got an issue because we've forfeited ours. Or we say to the organiser, we're thankful for you to incorporate our award within the TARAs, but we only want to consider nominations that have come through our group. It's our award. We could say that. And then if we do encounter another postponement in February, we still have an opportunity to present at a town council event.
I have to apologise because I wasn't here on the previous meeting, so I don't know how we came to the decision of incorporating our awards with the TARA. So I wasn't aware of that until just recently.
Well, at the time we had no nominations for the TARAs to consider at the last one, so we changed the criteria in the rules around. But there was a suggestion from the committee or a committee member, because we also said in the past we've felt that we haven't made enough of the prominence of the Honoured Citizens Award. It's been a bit of with respect, we only allocate £100 to it in the budget.
Yeah,
so one of the suggestions from one of the committee members that we approach the TARAs, that's a big community awards night, and see whether we can integrate that. So at least whoever the recipient is honoured in a big event.
I can see the value of having a bigger platform to publicise that they can the award. It's beneficial even for the recipient and everything.
Yeah.
But then again, we have dependent on somebody else organizing the event. Like if it goes back into cancelling like it did this time,
you're right.
Unfortunately happens. We still have to figure out how we're going to attribute those.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm just asking.
Two points. One, the reason it was done that way was time restraints, because it was looking like, it's this month or next month that everything's going to be asked to come. So it was purely on time restraints, and we'll look at it again for next year.
Yeah.
The second one was, we was originally looking for nominations, although we never got nominations, the TARAs have.
Mm-hmm. And
because people in this town and our community have nominated, I think it's only right that we consider them as well. They may not have directly nominated to us, but they've still been nominated, and I think that, they might need some recognition anyway.
I agree with that. I think the more we recognise people's work, the better. I'm just concerned, like in this situation, we were counting on attributing those awards. If the event gets cancelled, it's not up in our power to decide that, because we are doing it with someone else organising it, then it's not on us to decide whether or not the
I think also we have to bear in mind that the TARAs may not continue.
That's my concern. If something happens and they decide not to go through it, how will we resolve this? That was my
I
question.
think this one will go. This one will go.
Yeah.
But from what conversation I had with Mark is, he didn't really want to do it anyway.
But the conversation he had with Mike and I is one of the reasons why he was quite happy to forfeit the Community Service Award to incorporate ours, We offer our facility for free. This committee makes that decision. It has made that decision since the Taras has been started.
Yes.
It's on our premises. We have a big part to play and support that. It may be, if that's the scenario, Vic, that we take the stance that actually
We could do it.
So I'm attempting to summarise that is probably beyond my capability, but I'm suggesting to you that we come back to it on the 20th of December. We, at that point, have to make a decision as to who we're going to nominate, that we stick with the idea of supporting the Taras or being involved with the Taras, partly because of the greater attendance and publicity they can generate, that we recognise that it may be the last Taras, so we need to bear in mind it may be a one-off, but let's make the best of it while we can. Unless there's anything more to say, I suggest that we do a little bit of legwork between now and December and make a decision at that point. Vic?
Could I make a suggestion that if we're having a subcommittee that meets to do it, the subcommittee just meets, see who's nominated and just make the decision and bring it back at the meeting on the 12th for ratification?
Personally, I think that's very helpful and I would suggest that. If you're all willing, can I suggest that therefore we need to set up a subcommittee before we leave this subject? And I would suggest that the chair is one of them. And are there other volunteers, please?
To what, do a committee or something?
To participate in the committee, to decide on, so
Okay.
who
decide on.
wants to be on the subcommittee then.
Any of the councillors that haven't nominated can be on it.
That's right. Are you putting yourself forward?
I'm happy to sit on it, yes.
Thank you.
Am I doing it? I haven't nominated yet.
Carla, are you putting yourself forward, Carla?
Sure.
Okay. So we've got Vic and Carla and myself, and that'll do nicely. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. I'm hoping we are. Just pause again as I tend to, so in case you want to say no, there's something else. But there isn't. So item 401, correspondence. Is there any correspondence, please, committee officer? It says here.
No.
Nope. Thank you very much. 402, community engagement. Is there anything, colleagues, that you feel should be spread to the wider world that we've said today?
So I've got down here after the discussions. So obviously we need to make more of a profile about the fact that voluntary groups and sporting organisations, things like that, can actually approach us to use the marketplace, and we encourage that to do so we can get something out in terms of that. Yeah, I don't know whether there's anything else that people.
Are you suggesting we do a media release? I mean, it's hardly the stuff of it's not going to get the front page of the Sun, is it?
No, but one of the things that we've actually had a discussion in the officers group. So Alan, the deputy town clerk, myself, and the communications officer Hazel, and we actually, when we get to this stage, and you will see, hopefully he's going to propose this, Alan, that when we get to this thing, that we actually determine whether it is a press release or it is a social media release or it is both. So when it communicates down to Hazel, she's very clear that that's the focus that we take, because there's some that lends itself to be just a social media post, and others you can pick it up and run with it in terms of a press release as well. If it's a press release, then obviously we put it out on social media, we put it out everywhere, but it doesn't happen the other way around.
Okay.
So, but I think we have spoken to Kev Hurst today, and we did used to have a regular meeting with Kev. He reminded us that he usually brings biscuits and cakes to the meeting. We said that we did nicely. So we are trying to set up a more regular meeting. So again, I'm looking at Terry now. He needs to be included in that. But that's a good thing. And actually, we can probably try and prompt him to try and dress up some of these decisions to be a press release. He might find a way of doing it that we might not see as that.
So we leave in your hands on the expectation that it will be at least a social media release, probably a press release. Okay.
I think it's important to put it out on the channels that the tellers have changed dates, so people's aware even for tickets and nominations and all that stuff. Especially if we sort of partnering up with them to let people know that the date has changed.
Okay. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So item 403, committee officers update. Is there any update, please?
No, nothing.
There isn't.
No.
In which case, colleagues, thank you for your attendance. I close the meeting.
You, me and Mike going through that task.